Welcome back to another episode of 40 Facts About the 40K Universe. I am your host, Gershwan, and today we're going to be talking about a renegade chapter by the name of the Night Reapers. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. We post Warhammer 40K lore videos every single day. If you have any suggestions, please comment down below. And if you enjoy our content, thank our patrons on Patreon. It is because of them that we can do this. Link in the description if you guys want to support us. But with that said, let's get into 40 facts on the Night Reapers. The story of the Night Reapers is an excellent example of the schismatic nature of the different branches of the Adeptus Terra, and proved that the Imperium could avoid renegade Space Marines if only the High Lords showed more respect towards the Space Marines. The Night Reapers were once a loyalist Adeptus Astartes chapter that eventually fell to the temptations of chaos and betrayed the Imperium of Man. The chapter's path to corruption began when they were condemned to crusade on the fringes of the Lana Rift region, following their actions during their abortive defense of Salvation Gamma. Their crime had been dereliction of duty, for when confronted by a massive counterattack by a dozen Chaos Space Marine warbands drawn from the Iconoclasm revolts, alongside an unknown number of degenerate mutant hordes drawn from the edge worlds of the sector, the Night Reapers had abandoned the Shrine World as both effectively indefensible and of negligible strategic worth. Rather than allow the world to fall, the Night Reapers turned their own weapons on the Basilica cities and granted the pilgrims and refugees who had sought harbor there a merciless end. The rage of the ecclesiarchy over this loss was boundless and ensured that the Night Reapers chapter was punished by the High Lords of Terra. Shorn of their fortress monastery and chapter homeworld, and condemned to a perilous and thankless task of policing the outer reaches of the Lana Rifts, the Night Reapers bore their punishment with grim obedience but little contrition, or at least it appeared to. Within a standard decade, however, Imperial contact with the chapter, which had long carried a reputation for ruthless efficiency, independence, and technical aptitude, grew infrequent. Official contact ceased, and such second-hand reports of them that could be gleaned pointed towards steadily increasing deviations from the Codex Astartes doctrines, tactics, and equipment in their ranks. Some 6 standard years after the last Imperial contact, the Night Reapers were declared excommunicate traitors after forensic examination of wreckages found in the Guyathis Belt provided evidence of the chapter's direct responsibility for the destruction of the rogue trader fleet of Baron Strost Yan. This followed a series of other raids and incidents where the involvement of the now renegade chapter had been suspected, but firm enough evidence could not be found to blame them, while several Imperial expeditions to find the Night Reapers had disappeared without a trace. The Night Reapers took on the badge of a large golden animal skull, centered on a purple circlet in front of a pair of crossed golden signs. It is important to note that it is unclear if this was a dramatic change from the original iconography before the chapter went renegade. It is clear that the Imperial records point to very little mutation, if any at all, amongst the Night Reapers, leading many Imperial savants to believe that the chapter never truly worshipped the Chaos Gods, and merely defiantly opposed the Imperial rule, but never stopped honoring the Emperor of Mankind. Nevertheless, the blatant disregard of Imperial compliance was an inexcusable offense, and the Imperium's actions would later on lead them down the path to chaos. The first Space Marines to respond to the call to find and punish the Night Reapers comprised a 4-company-strong force of the Avenging Sons chapter, who alongside the Imperial Navy support set out into the Rift in search of the renegade chapter. Responding to a distress call from the Imperial outpost of Svargo Wells, the Night Reapers ambushed the Avenging Sons and forced them into a humiliating retreat, capturing one of their strike cruisers, wrecking a second, and badly mauling their would-be destroyers. The debacle of the Avenging Sons' defeat, which they blamed on the Night Reapers' use of the unknown warp flame weapons that bypassed their starships' void shields, moved the High Lords into direct action, and 2 full chapters of Space Marines, the Red Templars and the Minotaurs, alongside considerable local support from the fleets and defense sources of the neighboring sector, were directly tasked with the destruction of the Night Reapers. This was to be done before the threat could grow, lest they become a beacon for other renegades and malcontents in an already troubled region. The harrowing of the Night Reapers was to take a further 3 standard years of running battles to reach its fruition, and it was a campaign in which the Imperial chapter, the Red Templars, experts as they were in search and destroy and pursuit operations, were to be the hounds, and the Minotaurs, with their brute strength and aggression, would be the hunter, ready to deal the death blow. The Night Reapers fought with savage resistance across a dozen star systems, and in a score of ship-to-ship battles, as they were driven before the Imperials, bloodying their pursuit at every turn. It soon transpired that the Night Reapers, having thrown off the rule of the Emperor, had sought advantage in innovation, their tech marines adapting xeno-weapon technology originating with the cursed and near-extinct Hellgramonite race to their own ends, and their master striking pacts with the servants of the arch-enemy to further their cause. From this, the Night Reapers gained the strength to resist the Imperial onslaught for a time, but their relentless foes eventually cornered the bulk of the surviving Night Reapers at the Perron Cross, a massive, derelict pre-human space wreckage, large enough to have occurred its own thin atmosphere and a parasitic life form over the long ages. Here the Night Reapers were tunneling into the ancient artificial core of the wreckage, kilometers deep, in search of a weapon that they believed would be sufficient to rid themselves of the Imperial force who now encircled and besieged them. Events as they transpired in the bitter point of the siege remain shrouded in confusion, but what is known is that at the height of the Minotaur's attack, the Grey Knight strike cruiser Equinox Blade and a force of Grey Knights under the command of Brother Captain Danicus arrived in orbit around the Perron Cross. Entering the fire zone, they ordered the Imperial forces to concede to their authority and pull back from the assault. The Minotaurs, however, were not included in this course. The retreat of the Loyalist forces paved the way for Brother Captain Danicus of the Grey Knights to conduct a teleport assault into the depths of the Perron Cross as the battle raged on. What then transpired remains unknown, but sometime shortly afterwards, the Perron Cross structure broke up into burning fragments, riven by a series of gigaton-level explosions. The demise of the Perron Cross led to the complete loss of the Grey Knight strike force and a substantial but undefined number of Minotaur Space Marines, along with heavy damage to the Equinox Blade and the death of all those left on board. Asteriok Moloch, the stern chapter master of the Minotaurs, is known to have survived the incident, as he was once again witnessed commanding his chapter in battle some solar months later, while the Grey Knights Lord of Titan and the Ordo Malleus had remained curiously silent over their losses. As for the Night Reapers chapter, it is believed that the fiery death of Perron Cross served as a funeral pyre for the once loyal chapter. Whatever profane secrets surrounded them are believed to be buried there. Although thought to be completely destroyed, a reclamator fleet of the Night Reapers chapter was cornered by Inquisitor Celiano of the Ordo Malleus in the bleak expanse of the Caligula Nebula. With a full company of the Red Hunters chapter at his command, spearheaded by the ancient Fellblade, Tellum Veritasis, the Inquisitor forced a confrontation on one of the many barren worlds found in the nebula, and it was met by the warp-tainted armored vehicles of the Night Reapers. As the Tellum Veritasium dueled with a demon-touched Typhon-heavy siege tank on a plain strewed with broken remains of battle tanks, the Inquisitor was slammed by an errant shell, and the Red Hunters retreated, carving oaths of vengeance into the armored flanks of the Tellum Veritasium. And those were 40 facts on the Night Reapers. The cool thing about the Night Reapers is it showcases how not all Chaos Space Marine warbands turn to Chaos right away. There is a process sometimes for a Space Marine to go Traitor, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're worshipping Slanesh or Nurgle or Chaos Undivided. They could just be renegades and they're trying to push back against the Imperium, because you have to remember what the Imperium truly is compared to the Space Marines. The Space Marines are superhuman warriors. Their mindset is completely different than what a human's mindset is, even if it's an Imperial Guard officer, or if it's a Navy captain, or even like a planetary governor. Those guys are going to be fighting, but they're going to be fighting to maintain their power and their wealth, whereas a Space Marine, they don't worry about that. A Space Marine's mind is just completely alien to what a normal human would believe, because a normal human, like I said, they want to control their money, power, prestige. A Space Marine doesn't really care for that. They're just completely different beings, and then on top of that, the Night Reapers have that added frustration that the Adeptus Ministorum is the reason that they were reassigned. And the Adeptus Ministorum is basically the Church of the Imperium, and most Space Marine chapters don't believe that the Emperor is a god. They know and they understand that he was humanity's greatest psyker, and he's like an icon to humanity, but at the same time, they don't deify him. He specifically said, don't do this, like, don't worship me. So for them to go out into battle, see their battle brothers die, just so that these planetary governors and these sectors can maintain their power, and then on top of that, the humanity is doing exactly what the Emperor told them not to do. It gets frustrating, and it slowly chips away at their loyalty to the Imperium, and boom, you have the Night Reapers after a while. And then, obviously, if you're going to separate from the Imperium, that's kind of your where you get your money, where you get your resources, who are you going to turn to? You're going to turn to chaos eventually. So that was pretty cool. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have suggestions for any other Renegade or Chaos Space Marine warbands, let me know in the comment section below. And thanks for listening. I'll talk to you tomorrow. This is Gershwan with One Mind Syndicate signing out.
Oh, if you could put my freedom back.